Hello, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to take a look at some tactical knives. But before we get started, if you've seen any of my previous videos and saw anything in there that you liked, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Right, so today we're going to start off with this guy. And what this is a Hisatsu by CKRT, Columbia River Knife Tool Company. I'm gonna pause and speak on snobbery. There are a lot of knives out there in this world. The best one of all time being King Tut's Asteroid Dagger. And if it wasn't that, it would be this guy right here. Right, so now that we've discussed snobbery in the knife world, we're going to take a look at some very nice looking knives. And what we have here is a flat dark earth in color blade. Now, these blades range between 6.5 to 7.5 inches long. It does have a tactical feel to it. You do have these slots and holes for MOLLE attachment with 550 cord. And it is a knife. Without further ado, let's take a look at it. So that pulls apart and it's just a Kydex sheath. So you'll notice that this knife has an Asian Japanese theme to it, and it is very nice looking. We will take a look at several knives today, and you will see that a lot of these knives have a lot in common, but they are different and offer different features. This particular knife offers a great deal of styling, and it is a good knife to hold. You're getting a really good purchase on that grip. And it's really meant for one thing, and it's not the sort of knife that you want to sit there and do a lot of things with. This is more geared towards like the tactical community where it's like, you know, a combat situation and it's personifying a combat knife, if you will. However, you are limited to the things that you could do with this. I myself keep this as decoration. This thing is subjugated to art now. This is the second knife that I've had just like this one. I lost the other one, or I was overseas and it just wasn't able to come to America with me. This particular color of this blade is the most expensive one. This color, they offer it in several different colors. This one is harder to come by, and you could pick this knife up for I've seen it as low as $70. This color you're gonna pay about $175 to $200 for it. I find it's just a nice knife to look at, and I have a great deal of respect for it. So we're just gonna move along, put this away, and admire it one last time. Say, oh well, you know, it's a nice looking knife. So now we're gonna take a look at a knife that is comparable, and out of all the knives that we're gonna take a look at today, I would say that this would be my top pick if I needed to grab a knife that I felt was going to be as rugged as I need it to be, but still offer some of the features that I like within the knives that we're going to take a look at. So jumping in, you'll notice that it is roughly the same color, that gorgeous flat dark earth or coyote brown or coyote tan or one of those shades, aka the color of freedom. So this knife uh, offers you a belt loop, and you pull it out and push it up and it frees itself, and then it goes right back in. This thing isn't going anywhere. If you put this to your belt, it's going to be there until you take it off. Great deal of confidence in it. You'll notice that unlike the previous knife we looked at, we're getting a hand guard here, and it is made out of similar polymers. This particular knife has a butt cap. Some folks have removed that butt cap and put like a fire kit in there. It's really meant for mounting on a rifle. This is a bayonet. And you will see that it has some sort of locking mechanism here. And you simply make a finger gun and you pull out with your thumb and push up with your index and release the blade. Quick look at the sheath here. It has a little lanyard loophole there, so you can tie it down to your leg or whatever. And let's take a look at the blade. So you'll notice this blade is different in color. It's just gorgeous black. And if you were to paint this blade, I would suggest that you keep that coating on there and paint right over it. So this blade gives you roughly the same length as the previous blade that we saw. This is a Glock knife, model 81. I'm sure I knew that. Suddenly it became hard to know. Anyhow, so you'll notice that this knife has a saw back to it. And what that feature allows you to do is, if you needed to, stab this into the ground and saw roots so that you could dig out either a foxhole or a trench. And for that reason, I'm going to say that this knife is probably one of the more rugged knives that we're going to take a look at. And I would choose this one. Out of all the knives, I have to mention, this is possibly the most affordable one, coming in at about $40. Quite a bargain. Offers you a lot of features, and I believe that you can get it in several colors, and it's not hard to come by. That isn't going anywhere. So moving on, we're going to look at the Gerber LMF2. This knife I've had twice within my lifetime thus far. You could still find this color, but it's gone the same route as the Hisatsu, where past a certain point, it's just harder to find in this color a new version of it. So I use this knife a great deal, and I noticed how long time usage would affect this knife. And then I lost it and bought it again. And it shares that same tactical quality as the Hisatsu, where you could lash this on to some MOLLE, a drop leg holster, you name it. Very common with tactical style knives. This rubbery texture is nice to the touch, but it does wear out. You'll notice that there's some minor scratches, and I believe this one came like that. So much like the other knives, this has a retention system, and basically you just pull it out and it frees the blade. This sheath is unique in that it has a built-in knife sharpener. You simply stick your knife in there and run it through, and it will hone your blade. I think it's nice that they incorporated it into the sheath, and this sheath really has a feel of quality to it. However, I will say that this rubber, much like anything else, won't last forever. It does wear. Now I have relegated this knife to art, subjugated to art. So we're going to just take a look at the pommel. This pommel gives you the ability to crush walnuts. And it's going to take you some practice, but if you can crack walnuts with this, you can crack anything. You'll notice that there's a hole for a lanyard. We talked about that in my previous videos. But you also get these holes. And what those holes allow you to do is lash this knife onto a sapling or something like that, where you could make a spear, which we might talk about that. Some people don't want to turn a knife into a spear. Some people will do it if they need to do it. Anyhow, conveniently place holes there. And from experience, I've thrown this knife several times, and the effect was this rubber starting to like peel or separate from the actual metal there. But again, this isn't a knife that you really should be throwing. None of these knives are, and really you shouldn't throw your knives. But if you've got something that's like solid design, really good steel, I throw this all the time, and I'm confident that it's gonna survive. And something like this is like a specialty knife. It can do many things. I mentioned to you that it had that walnut pommel cracker device there, and you get these serrations. Now, what serrations are is these teeth-like segment of the knife. And that's good for shaving wood and really sawing into something. It's kind of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex tooth, this knife. It's really robust. It has a nice palm swell there, and you really got this in your knife. And it isn't as long as the other knives, but it is heftier. But it's probably the heaviest one of all the knives here. With that being said, this knife isn't like this knife, and where it has this solid tang design. Excuse me. This knife has a special design in it that is meant for dealing with electrical wiring. You could disable something with electricity if you're cutting through cables that have some voltage through it. Now, don't go do it and electrocute yourself, but technically this knife has that tactical theme going where you could potentially disable a vehicle from the inside by severing electrical wires. So that pretty much wraps it up. I hope that you enjoyed that presentation, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.